Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in life when the most powerful thing you can do is not to argue, not to beg, not to prove, but to step back and let them see what they lost, not in arrogance, but in awareness. Not to punish them, but to preserve yourself. You see, you were never meant to chase validation. You were meant to carry value, and when value is not recognized, it's not devalued, it's just misplaced. So today, I want to give you 6 principles that will help you rise when you've been overlooked, rejected, underestimated, or misunderstood. These principles are not just about walking away, they're about walking back into who you really are. There's a profound truth you must plant deep in your heart if you want to survive in a world that often misjudges, mislabels, and misunderstands people. You don't lose value just because someone failed to see it. A diamond in the dirt is still a diamond. A crown dropped in the mud doesn't become trash. Gold doesn't stop being gold just because it's covered in dust or hidden from sight. This principle must become your anchor. Your value is not defined by who accepts you or rejects you, who applauds you or ignores you. It is defined by the purpose you were created to fulfill. There's a profound truth you must plant deep in your heart if you want to survive in a world that often misjudges, mislabels, and misunderstands people. You don't lose value just because someone failed to see it. A diamond in the dirt is still a diamond. A crown dropped in the mud doesn't become trash. Gold doesn't stop being gold just because it's covered in dust or hidden from sight. This principle must become your anchor. Your value is not defined by who accepts you or rejects you, who applauds you or ignores you. It is defined by the purpose you were created to fulfill. You were born with value. You don't earn it, you don't beg for it. You carry it by design. One of the most painful experiences in life is being overlooked when people don't see the gift you bring, the strength you carry, or the love you offer. But being overlooked by man is not the same as being overlooked by God. Sometimes the people who reject you are blind to destiny. They are too focused on surface things, appearance, status, conformity, to recognize the deeper weight of your calling. So, what do you do when someone fails to see your worth? You don't retaliate. You don't reduce yourself. You don't chase them, convince them, or prove yourself. You step back, not in pride but in power. Not to punish them, but to protect your purpose. You see, anything man gives you, man can take away. If your worth is based on their attention, their approval, or their affection, you'll constantly live in insecurity. But when your value is rooted in your design, it becomes unshakable. Consider this: when a $1 bill falls in the mud, it gets dirty, it looks damaged, but does it lose its value? Not at all. Why? Because the value was assigned by a higher authority than the person holding it. Likewise, you were assigned value before people ever met you. You had meaning before anyone had an opinion. You had purpose before anyone gave you a position. So, if someone walks away from your life, it doesn't mean you are worthless. It simply means they were unworthy of access to your worth. There is a big difference between being needed and being valued. Some people want you for what you can do for them, not for who you are. You become useful but not honored, present but not respected. In those moments you must make a decision, not an emotional one, a wise one. Step back. Withdraw your energy from places that drain it. Withdraw your gift from environments that exploit it. Withdraw your presence from people who assume it will always be available. When you step back, you create space, and in that space, others will begin to see what they once ignored. Sometimes people have to lose access to you in order to recognize what they had. But your job is not to force realization, it's to remain faithful to your identity. You don't need a platform to be valuable. You don't need recognition to be essential. You don't need applause to be powerful. When you step back, you do something sacred. You let the silence teach what your words could not. You let your absence speak volumes that your presence once muted. The truth is, not everyone can handle you, and that's okay. Not everyone will see your greatness, and that's okay. Not everyone will appreciate your heart, and that's okay. Because the moment you tie your identity to people's perception, you lose sight of who you truly are. So don't be discouraged when people don't see it. Don't be angry when they overlook you, and don't be bitter when they replace you. You're not their loss, they're losing you. Sometimes the greatest act of strength is not to fight to be seen, but to walk away unseen, knowing you are still valuable. Your worth doesn't fluctuate with people's moods. Your greatness isn't diminished by temporary blindness, and your purpose isn't cancelled because someone walked away. So here's what I challenge you to do. Step back and let your light shine in a place that welcomes it. Step back and let your gift grow where it is honored. Step back and let them feel the silence they created. Because when the dust settles and the noise fades, there are times in life when the clearest vision comes only after we create distance. Not out of pride, not out of revenge, but out of necessity, because some things can only be seen clearly when they are no longer close. Have you ever held something so close to your face that it blurred your vision? Sometimes people treat you the same way. They get too familiar, too used to your presence, and they stop seeing your true value. Proximity can breed comfort, and entitlement blinds people to the treasure they have in front of them. That's why stepping back is not an act of withdrawal, it's an act of wisdom. There's a strange irony in human nature. We often recognize the value of something only after it's gone. We don't appreciate water until the well runs dry. We don't notice the light until we're in darkness. And we don't cherish people until they are no longer within reach. This is why stepping back is not abandonment, it's a mirror. When you step back, you reflect people's treatment of you. When you stop overextending, they begin to understand what they were receiving: the support, the loyalty, the presence, the gift. Sometimes your presence becomes so consistent that people confuse it with permanence. They assume you'll always be there, always answer, always help, always forgive. So how do you change that? You remove the assumption. You step back and let them realize that access to you was a privilege, not a right. You don't need to argue. You don't need to announce your departure. You don't need to slam the door behind you. Just step back in quiet dignity and let distance do what conversation could not. Let distance expose what proximity hid, how much effort you actually brought, how much love you actually gave, how much peace you contributed, how many storms you silenced without them even knowing. Distance has a way of teaching people what your presence once prevented. It teaches them about the weight you carried that no one acknowledged. It teaches them that peace wasn't automatic, it came because you brought it. It teaches them that the relationship, the team, the circle didn't function the same without you. You were the glue, the anchor, the covering, but they didn't notice. Until you were gone, too many people equate walking away with giving up. But there's a difference between quitting and wisely repositioning yourself. You're not walking away from them, you're walking towards clarity. You're not leaving people behind, you're stepping into a higher awareness of your worth. It takes strength to stay silent when you want to explain. It takes restraint to distance yourself without bitterness. It takes maturity to let people realize their mistake without having to announce it. Stepping back is not weakness, it is wisdom, because the more you chase people who don't see your value, the more you lose sight of your own. When you step back, people get quiet, the noise stops, the games stop, the performance ends. Why? Because your withdrawal reveals what your presence was preventing. When you're always there, they never reflect. But when you're gone, they have to face the truth, and truth, when not avoided, brings transformation. Clarity is birthed in absence. Suddenly, the one they took for granted becomes the one they miss the most. The small things become big, the ignored moments become meaningful, the kindness becomes unforgettable. Your absence gives them the time to face what they didn't appreciate, and sometimes that's the only way they'll learn. You don't have to shout to be heard, you don't have to beg to be valued, you don't have to shrink to be accepted. Just step back, let your absence be the message, let the silence be the teacher, let the distance speak the truth. Because when all the dust settles and the distractions fade, they'll see it. They'll see how much you meant. They'll see what they lost. They'll see what they dismissed while it was right in front of them. But by then you won't be waiting, you won't be stuck, you won't be bitter, you'll be better. Because distance doesn't just reveal to them what they lost, it reveals to you who you really are. There comes a point in every person's journey where they must ask themselves, is staying in this place costing me my peace? Because no position, no relationship, no title, no connection is worth the price of your inner peace. Many people stay in environments where they are tolerated, not celebrated, where they are drained, not developed, where their soul is slowly dying, but they're still showing up out of loyalty, fear, or obligation. Today, I want to give you permission to do something sacred. Protect your peace. You don't owe anyone your mental exhaustion. You don't owe anyone your emotional collapse. You don't owe anyone the version of you that is pretending to be okay while dying inside. Peace is not weakness. Peace is not passivity. Peace is power. Your peace is a signal, an internal compass telling you when you're aligned with your purpose or out of order. When you begin to lose sleep, when your joy disappears, when your spirit grows weary, that is not something to ignore. That is something to investigate. Too often, we ignore the signs because we don't want to cause conflict. But let me tell you something. Peace is not the absence of conflict, it is the presence of alignment. You can be in a room full of people and still be out of place. You can hold the mic, wear the title, or sign the contract and still feel empty. Never confuse a position with peace, because when the applause stops, when the lights fade, when the crowd goes home, peace is what keeps you whole. Many of us were taught that walking away means failure, that stepping back is giving up, that leaving the room means you're disloyal. But staying where your peace is dying is not loyalty, it's self-abandonment. And here's the truth. You were not created to survive environments that suffocate you. You were not built to endure circles that drain your joy and devalue your contribution. You are not called to be a slave to expectation while your inner life is in shambles. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say, I love you, but I love myself enough to let go. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I choose peace over position. I'm not running, I'm rising. Because when your soul is under pressure, no external role is worth it. Not every open door is a divine one. Not every invitation is an assignment. And not every connection is a covenant. One of the greatest enemies of your peace is distraction, and it often comes dressed as opportunity. You get busy, you get involved, you say yes to everything and everyone, and before long, you're everywhere but nowhere, doing much but accomplishing little, visible but not fulfilled, connected but not at peace. Let me tell you something that will set you free. Every opportunity is not your responsibility. You are not obligated to stay where you are not growing. You are not required to respond to every request. You are not created to carry weight that does not belong to you. When peace leaves a place, follow it, because peace always leads you back to your purpose. Protecting your peace doesn't mean cutting everyone off or living in a cave. It means being intentional about who gets access to your mind, your energy, your space, and your time. You are a limited resource, your time, your energy, your attention, they are not infinite. So ask yourself, who drains me and who develops me? Where do I shrink and where do I shine? Am I maintaining something that is no longer nourishing me? You don't need to be rude. You don't need to make a scene. Just step back with grace and with truth. Not to punish them, but to preserve yourself, because what good is it to gain the world and lose your peace? Hear me and hear me clearly. If it costs you your peace, it's too expensive. No relationship is worth your sanity. No title is worth your wholeness. No friendship is worth your mental health. No platform is worth your soul. You don't need to prove your worth by enduring what breaks you. You don't need to stay just to keep others comfortable while you're suffering in silence. You don't need to remain present when your peace has already left the room. So today, give yourself the permission to do what few have the courage to do. Step back, protect your peace, and let them see not just what they lost, but what you reclaimed. You are not walking away in fear. You are walking away in freedom. There is a moment in every person's life when you realize this. You don't need to explain yourself to be understood. You don't need to argue to prove a point. And you don't need to speak to be heard. Sometimes the most powerful response is not a word, but silence. Not silence as weakness, not silence as avoidance, but silence as mastery. Silence is what wisdom chooses when noise no longer serves purpose. And when you've been unheard, disrespected, dismissed, or underestimated, silence is not retreat. It is strategy. There comes a time when you've done all the talking, you've explained, you've reasoned, you've forgiven, you've stayed, you've tried, but you are still unheard, unseen, and unvalued. That's when you realize it's time to stop speaking and start stepping, not to hurt, but to heal, not to cause guilt, but to gain growth. Because if your presence didn't teach them who you are, then maybe your absence will. And if your voice couldn't make them see, then your silence will echo louder than anything you could ever say. Some lessons can't be taught in conversation, they must be experienced in reflection. Your silence creates space, space for them to think, space for them to reflect, space for them to face themselves. When you're constantly speaking, people get used to your voice, they tune you out. But when you go quiet, your absence becomes a mirror forcing them to confront the consequences of their actions. Silence isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. When you're always available, they take you for granted. When you always explain, they stop listening. When you always respond, they never change. So what do? You stop explaining, you stop begging. You stop overfunctioning. Your energy is your currency. Your voice is valuable. Your peace is a treasure. And you must stop spending it on people who don't know the cost of your presence. It's not pride to stop explaining. It's not arrogance to walk away quietly. It's wisdom. You can't keep repeating yourself to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. You can't keep offering explanations to people who have already made up their minds. You can't keep watering a relationship that doesn't want to grow. Silence is not giving up. It's growing up, and growth requires separation. Not because you're better than them, but because you've outgrown the need to be validated by them. The truth is, some people will never change as long as they have access to you. Your voice becomes their comfort. Your presence becomes their excuse not to reflect. But when you go silent, when you stop defending yourself, when you take a step back, everything changes. Now they have to sit with the echo of your absence. Now they have to remember the weight of your support. Now they have to live with the realization of what they didn't value. And while they're reflecting, you are healing. You are rediscovering your peace. You are reclaiming your time. You are restoring your power. Silence gives you the space to come back to yourself without the noise, the chaos, or the confusion. So what do you do when they didn't listen? What do you do when they dismissed you? What do you do when you gave your heart and they walked away like it meant nothing? You don't scream, you don't beg, you don't chase, you simply go quiet. You protect your energy. You maintain your dignity, and you let your silence become your final sentence. Because silence speaks, it speaks of strength, it speaks of wisdom, it speaks of worth, and long after your words would have faded, long after the argument would have ended, your silence will still echo. So don't be afraid to be quiet. Don't be afraid to leave unannounced. Don't be afraid to stop explaining yourself. Because when the time is right, they will realize what they lost. Not because you said it, but because you stopped saying anything at all. There comes a moment, after the good. Eyes have blurred, after the explanations have stalled, after the echoes of why. Rebound inside your chest, when you realize you're standing at a fork in the road. One path is well-worn, begging for answers, replaying every conversation, waiting for an apology that may never come. The other path is narrow, less traveled, releasing the need for closure and embracing something far more powerful, clarity. Choose the latter, and liberation begins. Like water shimmering on desert sand, closure looks tangible from afar, but vanishes as you approach. People imagine it as a final sentence that seals the chapter, yet true life is seldom so tidy. Hearts heal in spirals, not straight lines. Loose threads remain. When you stop chasing the mirage, you discover you can still cross the desert with unanswered questions, because your destiny is an oasis found within, not a confession extracted from someone else. We crave the why because we hope it will soothe the sting, but why did they leave, or why did they betray me, rarely carries the medicine we expect. Even if you receive the perfect reason, pain doesn't dissolve, it merely redirects. Obsessing over motives anchors you to the past. Relinquishing the interrogation frees your future. Grow comfortable with partial sentences, half-finished stories, and commas where you wanted periods. Your purpose thrives in punctuation you control, not in explanations you can't compel. Eat unanswered questions can become teachers instead of tormentors. Ask, what is this silence instructing me about boundaries? How is this disappointment sharpening my discernment? When curiosity shifts from them to you, every scar becomes a syllabus. Reflection transforms pain into curriculum. You learn to spot red flags earlier, to communicate needs sooner, to cherish yourself deeper. Let the void educate rather than devastate. Clarity doesn't float down like snow, it sprouts like seed. You must steward the soil, pull the weeds of blame, water the roots of self-honesty, bask in the sunlight of wise community. Over time, blurred memories sharpen into balanced perspective. You see both your part and theirs, both the beauty and the breakage. Clarity is a harvest only diligent gardeners reap. Closure chasers stay hungry, waiting at empty doors. No one else can complete your comeback. Apology or not, explanation or not, you decide when to heal. Guard your mental gates. Limit replay loops. Refuse shame's commentary. Lean into practices that replenish prayer, journaling, exercise, authentic friendship. You were not built to live in emotional probate court, forever litigating old cases. Dismiss the trial, sign your own release forms, walk out free. Paradoxically, when you stop demanding answers, you start embodying them. Instead of why wasn't I valued, you become someone who values yourself so fiercely that others take note. Instead of why did they abandon me, you cultivate steadfast presence for those entrusted to you. In time, your transformed life whispers to past wounds, this is the explanation you needed all along. Closure may knock, or it may remain silent forever. Either way, choose the higher path, step back, breathe deep, and let clarity rise like sunrise over the fog. The light it casts will guide your next steps more surely than any apology ever could. Walk on, whole and unencumbered, and let those who once puzzled you witness the brilliance of a person who no longer needs their permission to heal or to soar. There is a final turning point in every journey of rejection and recovery, a moment when you stop looking back at who left and start looking forward to who you're becoming. Your ultimate response is not a speech, a post, or a confrontation. It is the transformed person you unveil to the world. When apologies are absent and explanations are unfinished, elevation becomes the loudest language. Today we explore the sixth principle, let your become be their reminder. Arguments are temporary, growth is permanent. You could spend years recounting how they underestimated, mishandled, or misread you. But if you rise into the fullness of your design, your emergence makes every accusation obsolete. The caterpillar never berates the earth for imprisoning it. It simply becomes a butterfly, and flight refutes every limitation. Your transformation discredits those who dismissed you. Without a single harsh word, when you ascend, emotionally, spiritually, professionally, those who once ignored your worth are forced to revisit their memories of you. Your present excellence becomes a mirror reflecting their past choices. They remember the version of you they had access to and, without your intervention, compare it to the radiant version standing before them now. Regret needs no assistance. It arrives uninvited in the presence of manifested potential. True success is not flamboyant, it is evidence. A fruitful orchard makes no announcement, yet its aroma draws visitors from miles away. In the same way, flourishing in your purpose preaches a sermon that no microphone could amplify. Every healed scar, every mastered skill, every milestone met is a verse in a message your life is delivering. Let the harvest talk. Let the results stand as undeniable proof that overlooking you was their deficit, not yours. Becoming is not cosmetic, it is core work. If you polish the exterior but neglect the interior, the surface will crack under the weight of shallow success. So begin where true change begins. Mindset renew thoughts that once settled for crumbs. Character forge integrity that outlasts applause. Competence hone skills until excellence becomes instinct. Resilience convert every setback into fortifying muscle. When inward infrastructure is solid, outward achievements come naturally and last indefinitely. Your life ceases to be a reaction to rejection and becomes an unfolding of destiny. There is a vast difference between trying to prove them wrong and striving to become your best. Proving is external. It seeks validation from spectators. Producing is internal. It seeks alignment with assignment. Spend that fierce energy writing the book, launching the venture, earning the degree, mentoring the next generation. Because purpose fulfilled is the finest punctuation to a chapter of dismissal. Bitterness stains brilliance. A spotlight fueled by vengeance eventually burns out the bearer. Rise with grace, not grudge. Celebrate your own growth without obsessing over who notices. Paradoxically, the less you care about their acknowledgement, the more powerful your presence becomes. Humility, wrapped in achievement, commands respect long after pride-fueled triumphs fade. Your elevation is not solely for personal vindication. It is also for communal inspiration. When others witness your metamorphosis, they perceive possibility for themselves. You transform from a story of rejection into a roadmap of resilience. Make space behind you. Mentor, teach, encourage. So your ascent pulls others upward. A life that lifts is a legacy that lasts. You owe no one a rebuttal. You owe yourself a resurrection. Step out each day as living proof that dismissal could not deter destiny. Stand tall, shine bright, excel quietly, love fiercely. Then, without a single syllable of blame, your very existence will whisper to every former doubter, "This is what you overlooked." And by then, you won't need them to realize it, because you will have already risen beyond the reach of their opinion, soaring in the unshakable confidence of who you have become. You don't need revenge. You don't need an audience. You don't need to force recognition from those who once overlooked you. What you need is transformation, not for them, but for you, not to prove a point, but to fulfill a purpose. So step back, withdraw with dignity, move forward with discipline, and let the silence echo what your words never could, because when purpose matures, potential speaks. When healing finishes its work, wholeness radiates. And when you rise, unapologetic, unwavering, and undeniable, they will see it. They will remember the version of you they had access to. They will feel the absence they once ignored, and they will watch from a distance as you become everything they never believed you could be. But you won't be looking back. You'll be too busy becoming, too focused on fulfilling, too elevated to entertain what was left behind. So don't chase closure, don't explain your worth, just rise. Because the greatest response to being underestimated is becoming unforgettable. Let your life say the rest. Would you like this conclusion formatted for a video or audio speech ending as well?